What do you make of the large number, particularly of kind of military-age men coming from China?
I think the number was 450 Chinese nationals entered illegally and were apprehended in 2022. Last year, it exceeded 24,000. And by midway through this year, I think by June, those numbers were over 24,000 again. So roughly 50,000 Chinese nationals have entered the United States illegally in the last 2 years. You don't just get to leave China. So they're allowed to leave China and fly to Mexico, and they're coming in illegally. Men don't leave their families unless they're preparing for war. That is a threat.
Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a rating, share us with someone that you know. We are available wherever you get your podcast, whether you want to listen or watch on YouTube. We are there. Today is Monday, September 16th, and we are less than 24 hours out from a second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. And I already get this sense that people are going, he missed one, he'll miss a second, no big deal. This is weird. I feel like we're almost being conditioned to just accept this kind of thing. Like this is just going to be the part of the new normal. And that's disturbing. I know people feel that way about mass shootings too, and high gas prices and high grocery prices and the state of the world and immigration and crime. We deserve better on all those fronts. And really, maybe it starts with each one of us. Like you may feel like you're just a number and you have no sway, no power, no voice, but you do. It comes at the voting booth. It comes on how you are responsible on social media. It comes from the moment you wake up and the way that you treat people and talk to people. Everyone, from your husband to the mailman, to the grocer, to your boss, to whomever. You do have agency in all of this, and we do need to tone down the rhetoric. And I'm going to give you today an overview of what happened on Twitter. X, in the wake of this assassination attempt yesterday in Florida. I'm going to give you the top 10 tweets that I found, posts that I found on X that to me exemplify the divisiveness and the nuttiness in our society. And I think you'll be fascinated, amused, maybe enraged, maybe outraged. I'm not sure how you'll respond to all of these, but to me, they give a good cross-section of where we are, even though X isn't the real world, Twitter isn't the real world. But some of these comments come from people you know and people you don't know. We're going to cover those. Plus, Chief Chris Clem, former Border Patrol chief, is going to join us to talk about all the border stories that we're hearing right now. Tren de Aragua, all the rest. Chief Clem's going to be with us. It's going to be short. It's going to be sweet. It's going to be hopping. Stay with us. It seems like sleep is something so many people struggle with. And I know that I do, especially in the wake of this second shoulder surgery I've had. But I am now sleeping better, and I'm not exaggerating. There's a product called Sleep Cream, CREME, that is working for me. So I know you're wondering, what the heck is Sleep Cream and how can a cream help you sleep? Well, Sleep Cream is a revolutionary new product made of all natural ingredients and with pure CBD crystals. And yes, you simply rub it on sensitive skin areas right at bedtime. So you could put it on your forearms. I put it on my feet. You can put it on the backs of your knees. You will feel relaxed in a matter of minutes, and you will get the best sleep you've had in years. I know that it is helping me tremendously. And best of all, it's guaranteed to work, or you get your money back. No questions asked. Again, I know you're thinking, how can a cream help me sleep better? And again, I'm telling you, if you want an all natural way to sleep better, you simply must try Sleep Cream. And maybe you've heard all kinds of mixed messages about CBD, but Sleep Cream only uses pharmaceutical grade pure CBD crystals with 0 THC. And it's made right here in the USA. So you can trust it. Too good to be true? Why don't you try it? And with its 100% money back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose except more sleepless nights. So go to sleepcream.com, sleepcreme.com. Use code November24, all one word, to check out when you check out and save $24 off your first order. If you're ready for your best sleep ever, I know you are. Sleepcream.com. That's sleepcreme.com. Use code November24, all one word, to save $24 on your first order. Well, as promised, my top 10 tweets in the wake of the second assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump, our former president, and the Republican candidate. So it's gotten really ugly out there because people want to know who they should blame for these assassination attempts. So I would blame the guys with the guns in their hands, for starters. Now, we are often lectured about hot rhetoric leading to these kinds of reactions from people who maybe don't have their heads on quite straight or are really just caught up in all the vitriol. Regardless, twice in a matter of, the first one was July 13th, the second one was September 15th. It's a little nuts. And maybe even more nuts is the response on Twitter. So let me, without further ado, take you through my top 10 X posts. I keep saying Twitter. And we'll start with this one. This is the wife of Alexander Vindman. He's a retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel who testified before Congress in the Trump-Ukraine scandal, which led to the first impeachment of the former president. And Rachel Vindman tweeted, quote, "No ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon." No ears were harmed. Carry on with your Sunday afternoon. Well, frankly, I'm happy to say that Selena Zito retweeted that with this context saying, "Corey died, ma'am. He was someone's husband. He was a girl dad. He both loved and served our community. Delete your tweet, please." Selena Zito was just one of a number of people who ripped this tweet to shreds by Rachel Vindman. No ears were harmed. Move along with your Sunday. I mean, the either intentional forgetfulness about the man who died and the two others who took bullets at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally is just disgusting. So that was the first one. So we had kind of malicious, crazy, but retweeted by Selena Zito with, I think, a very good reprimand. Here's number 2 from Walter Kern. Walter Kern is a great writer. He is often seen on the Greg Gutfeld show. Just a terrific writer. Has been involved in film, television, books. He retweeted "This is evil" as a response to Lester Holt, who on NBC said the following in the wake of the second assassination attempt. Go ahead and listen to this.
Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. This weekend, there were new bomb threats in that town. Our Maggie Vance.
So I'm going to read you aloud what Lester Holt just said. Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, resulting in bomb threats. So in other words, is that kind of victim shaming, victim blaming? You decide. Walter Kern, who is a really cool guy, I've gotten to meet him and work with him. He is really a smart, intelligent, wise, funny as hell guy, but didn't like this at all. So you get to decide about that. And as for the Haitian immigrant stories, like I said, Chris Clem, former Border Patrol captain, is coming on with us in a matter of minutes. So stick around for that. Here's the third tweet I want to show you. Richard Grinnell responded to Hakeem Jeffries because Hakeem Jeffries said, "Extreme MAGA Republicans are the party of a national abortion ban and Trump's Project 2025. We must stop them." This is Hakeem Jeffries, right? And that was yesterday. And Richard Grenell, a former ambassador, said this language must stop. Do you realize that if Donald Trump is assassinated, that our country will be ripped in two? I fear for America with these tactics. Your language is radical and contains two lies. For the sake of the country, stop. And what he's referring to is that extreme MAGA Republicans are the party of a national abortion ban. I don't know which extreme MAGA Republicans he's talking about, but Project 2025 has been disavowed. It is not part of the Republican platform. So to just put that out there, it just reminds me of lying. And so Richard Grenell called him out for that. Here's tweet number 4 from Peachy Keenan, whom we've had on the show. And she sort of kind of responded to the media reaction to all of this. And she says, the media to Trump, quote, stop making us have to kill you. Kind of a very sarcastic and humorous response to the whole thing. Like, you know, we've just got to keep trying to kill you because you won't shut up. We've got free speech in the United States for a little while longer. Avro G. Beckwith posted this. The almost killer of real Donald Trump had posted, democracy is on the ballot. Does that sound familiar? Sound like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and Dems? Irrational people are inspired by these comments. Now, yes, but let's remember that there was one guy who brought the gun to the golf course. Now, was he inspired by it? Look, he mimicked what is being said by not just Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Joe Biden about democracy being on the ballot. I mean, it's the entire Democrat Party, maybe with a few exceptions, and the media lapdogs. Yes, we're going to call them that, who say democracy is on the ballot. And, you know, this guy's the next Hitler, and he's a dictator from day one, and all of this stuff that I've even witnessed very rational people repeat. Like Michelle, he said he's going to be dictator on day one. It's the power of the media. Here's our next one. This comes from Riley Moore of West Virginia. The system has never been more afraid of one man than it is of Donald Trump. Nearly a decade of hyperbolic, violent rhetoric from Democrats and their henchmen in the media incited another attempt of murder of President Trump today. Words matter. Biden and Harris must own this. And he tweeted that in response to a post from End Wokeness that said 6 hours later after the attempt, 0 statements from the White House on the assassination attempt. Their silence speaks volumes. Ultimately, both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden came out with statements. They were very benign, bland statements. I mean, maybe the first time was stronger because someone got killed and because the president got struck. This one, because no one got hurt, just another assassination attempt. Here's number 7 from Clay Travis, the founder of Outkick. A former sports guy from ESPN now has Outkick, the coverage, the digital platform. Imagine what media coverage would look like if 2 different people had tried to kill Obama, including hitting him once in 2 months. We didn't have shots fired at a president for 43 years, and we may have now had it happen twice in 60 days. Seems like kind of a big deal. I would agree. Then a couple here having to do with Taylor Swift. Donald Trump put out on Truth Social, I hate Taylor Swift. And that jarred so many people. Even though for years and years and years, people have been saying far worse about Donald Trump. So no, I didn't like what he posted. I haven't liked what all these other people have posted. Like I said, the rhetoric needs to come down. But, you know, here's what one woman said. Her name is Ellie Schnitt, and she said, notice Trump said he hates Taylor Swift and immediately got shot at again. That's Tay voodoo. I mean, when your fandom goes like that, whatever. And X post number 9 or Twitter number 9 back kind of dovetails from that one. And it's our favorite, Bette Midler. Used to love her, but she's gone crazy. Here's her post, all right? Trump rage tweeting his hate for Taylor Swift is not just dangerous, it's illegal. He is putting out a hit on her, and we all know it. He wants his minions to do his dirty work, and you know they will. If she is hurt, he will deny that he knows anything about it, as he always does. Quote, I don't know. I haven't heard. She should sue the diapers off him, and I hope she does. Hashtag Swifties Unite. Did you hear that? Did you find the... Wow. Bet in that? The former president has been shot at twice. And it seems to me that people have posted a lot of horrific things that go well beyond I hate Donald Trump, although that's been tweeted zillions of times. And he's been shot at twice. And here's Bette Midler saying it's illegal to put out a tweet about Taylor Swift. Illegal? No, Bette. Just because you disagree with it or you don't like it doesn't make it illegal. Look, I am not defending Donald Trump's Truth Social post about Taylor Swift. It's stupid, no upside, dumb. Illegal? No. Bette Midler a little cray-cray? Yes. For her to suggest that he's putting a hit out on Taylor Swift and Trump's minions will do the work, and if she gets hurt, it's going to be on him. This is borderline insanity. Borderline insanity. And it's amazing how the left very often projects onto the right its own shortcomings or its own plans or its own tactics. And that's what that one felt like. That was just bizarre for me to read, but then it was Bette Midler, so I understood. And finally, X post number 10 comes from my friend Jimmy Fallon. He's a comedian, and he is funny. And his post says, I want to live in an America where the press has more access to the Democrat nominee than the assassins do to the Republican nominee. Touche, Jimmy. Touche. All right, we will leave it at that. Coming up, okay, what about all these stories about Haitian immigrants and Tren de Aragua and the border, and that the ABC moderators just wanted to fact check cat eating instead of all of the other dangerous things that have happened at the hands of some of these really bad people who have come into the country illegally. Again, not all of them are bad. The vast majority are not. But when you cannot vet people thoroughly, you get bad ones. And boy, do we have some bad ones here. And people are getting hurt and killed. So we'll talk with former Border Chief Captain Chris Clem next. Before we move on, let me remind you about my friends at besthotgrill.com. Football is back. So is tailgating. Whether it's Friday Night Lights, Saturday College, or Pro Sundays, Solaire tailgate infrared grills set up fast and they heat up really quickly, only 3 minutes to searing hot temperatures, just like the big backyard Solaires. A Solaire grill will make you the master of the tailgater with the juiciest, most flavorful food in the parking lot. And the fast grilling times leave you more time to enjoy the pregame festivities. They also cool down really fast that you won't miss a minute of the game. You'll just have to close it up, put it away. The USA-made Solaire Anywhere, Everywhere, and All About infrared grills are portable and perfect for any grilling on the go. From picnics to camping, RVs to boating, but especially tailgating. Amaze your tailgating friends with the great food you grill with your Solaire infrared grill. I've got one. Learn more about these fantastic grills and Solaire's try before you buy demo rental program at besthotgrill.com. That's besthotgrill.com. Besthotgrill.com. You'll never need another grill. So I called him Border Patrol Captain Chris Clem. He is actually a former Border Patrol Chief, Chris Clem. He patrolled the Yuma, Arizona sector of the southern border. He's going to join us in seconds here to talk about the things that are going on at the border right now. He may be retired, but he is still very much involved. He's heading down to the border later today. He has a lot of details that you're going to want to know about. Look, Taylor Swift said, do your research. Immigration, and I'm talking illegal immigration, has created a lot of really bad problems here in America. People who have been murdered at the hands of these unvetted immigrants. No one better to talk about it than former Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem. He's our guest next. Welcome back, Chief Clem. It's good to see you. Listen, this is timely. I think the border's been a timely topic for the last several years, actually. But, so many people are focusing on Donald Trump talking about Haitians eating dogs and cats. But I think the bigger picture might be getting lost here. Yeah. As we sit here today on September 16th of 2024, what is the state of our southern border?
Well, you bring up a lot of good points just in that short little opening here. The border is still, porous. It still has plenty of challenges. There has been a lull, a drop in the apprehensions that Border Patrol has been seeing, and we expected that with some of the, manipulation and agreements with Mexico and some of the executive orders. So, yeah, they could take a little short victory lap, but what I find interesting is the numbers that they're talking about and throwing out there are compared to Trump numbers. That that was the measurement of success, and we had that and handed that to them 3.5 years ago. And so that is kind of crazy that they're sitting there bragging about their success using Trump measuring numbers. But what is really happening is they're bringing people in through that would normally be inadmissible. Last July, or this past July, they said the numbers were a low, 56,000. That's how many people Border Patrol apprehended. But they brought in 47,000 through the CBP One app that would have been inadmissible, allowed them to come in through the port of entry because they scheduled a hearing. And then they also flew in 66,000 people using the parole system, which is an abuse of the parole system.
Can I drill down on that with you for a little bit? These flights with this parole system,
right?
What is the law here? What's going on? This one is sort of, I've heard about it the last couple of years, right, but the details are new to me.
Yeah, so parole is really is power given by legislative branch to the executive branch to parole people into the United States for limited purposes only, case-by-case individual cases that are like for medical, humanitarian, or, witnesses on behalf of the government. As the chief in Yuma, I would parole people in that would be witnesses on behalf of an international case. Or if somebody had, a medical issue that they could not receive in Mexico, but the hospital in Phoenix could do it, we could parole them in for that length of time. So what this administration has done and said, wait, we see this as a government interest. We'll parole in 30,000 people a month from Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Haiti, and just bypass the system altogether. And they're flying them into the United States, and they're being released into the communities. So back to July numbers, 170,000 people came into the United States who would have been otherwise inadmissible. And many of them were paroled in under this process. And again, it's an abuse. It's being challenged in the courts. But that is what this administration has done. They found one little bit of wiggle room that was granted for the right reasons, and they've exploited it. And they're saying, look, the border, everything's fine at the border now because we don't have this chaos. Well,
we might want to check the airports, however.
Yeah, exactly. And you're seeing them arrive everywhere in the country.
Yeah, if I understand you correctly, you're saying what is should be a limited number of people brought in for very specific and urgent reasons has been sort of blanketed across large groups. And I know that in Haiti, the country is in major crisis. So I'm sure that there's seemingly a need to help a lot of those people out. But when you bring in that many, the numbers you're talking about, and you take them to one tiny community like Springfield, Ohio, that is getting the center of attention here.
Right.
That's very difficult for a community. How are those decisions made that you distribute people to certain areas and not others?
Well, it all comes down to who's friendly with the administration. We went through this back when I was working in Washington, D.C. under the Obama-Biden administration with unaccompanied children. They were overwhelming the system, the Health and Human Service system. So they reached out to all the communities that were friendlies and said, will you take them? And that's kind of what's happening with this non-government organization network and the funding that they've given them, millions and millions of dollars to allow that placement. So somebody was I don't want to say in cahoots, but connected with this administration to say, we'll take them. And Michelle, I want to be very clear. People need to know facts. And I don't like to broad brush any demographic, but we've seen some of the issues facing Haitian nationals, and we get it. We understand the problems their country has faced. But let me take you back to what was happening in Del Rio, Texas in September of 2021. There was 16 to 17,000 people arrived in 3 days. The big horse patrol incident. Those were 85 to 90% Haitian nationals that were causing all that disruption, that were robbing people, that were going back and forth. And then in December, in Yuma, Arizona, where I was chief, in 3 days, we had over 4,000 people show up, mainly Haitians. The mayor declared an emergency because they were running through the agricultural fields. They were urinating, defecating, sleeping on these fields. They were going straight to the food bank and demanding food. We had to call in our special response team to handle our detention areas because they were so aggressive and as much of an uprising going on to curtail that, because they have been desperate. They have been promised something and they were never given. They were mistreated from their trek all the way from South America up to the United States. And they've caused a lot of these problems. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but right. there were an issue for us. And so when I see these things play out in other communities, I witnessed it firsthand. So I understand the challenges that Americans are facing, especially these small towns that aren't prepared for it.
Yeah, Aurora, Colorado is another one that comes to mind. Yes. This Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. What can you tell us about this gang that it's probably going to scare the hell out of us, but what are they like?
Well, they're one of the most violent gangs in the world. We've talked about MS-13 in the past, and they haven't gone away, by the way. They're still operating.
Right.
But the Tren de Aragua was a Venezuelan prison gang, and we know that they have released people from Venezuelan prisons, and they were controlling a lot of the migration coming out of South America, and they've just migrated themselves and worked their way through Central America into Mexico. We know that they are moving through the Mexican state of Chihuahua and making their way in mainly in the El Paso, Texas area. And we saw them show up in Aurora, Colorado, because Colorado is a sanctuary state who has received a lot of migrants because, again, the connection with the non-government organizations in El Paso, busing people and transferring people to Colorado. Well, naturally, when you have Venezuelan nationals who are not, part of the gang show up there and they have friendly and family relations, the gang's going to go someplace where they know they can exploit people. And that's why they showed up. And we saw some of that happen in Aurora. But they're not limited to Aurora. You see them in major cities around the nation, Chicago being one of them, cities in Michigan. We know New York City and parts of the East Coast as well. So they're known for their machine guns. They're known for their violence. And again, when we tell people the facts that there are criminals coming across, that there are people with bad intentions. We're not broad brushing migrants trying to find a better life, but we have to secure the border. And when people conflate immigration and border security and get all emotionally wrapped up in it, we forget the national security and public safety interest until it shows up at your doorstep and causes problems to your family. And then we've seen the murders happen across the country.
No question. That's the thing that gets me, is that we want to be empathetic toward people in other countries that are experiencing danger and poor conditions. But at the same time, what about the people here who then end up being victimized by the ones who get through who shouldn't? And if I heard you right, you're saying like maybe a place like Springfield or these NGOs that have connections with the White House. So I saw one of these city council meetings in Springfield where multiple residents were saying, what are you doing? Why aren't you helping us? How is this going on? Why am I standing here talking to you about these fears that I now have? And it seemed like the city council was saying, oh, first of all, you're racist. Second of all, you're blowing it out of proportion. Is the city council getting some financial kickback for bringing these immigrants in?
I mean, that would be the only logical reason, because why, if you're there as a local representative of the people on a city council and you're ignoring the request of your citizens, your constituency, who's saying, I feel threatened, you've got to do the money trail, find out what candidates are they supporting, who are they tied into, what business ventures do they have. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense, because all politics is local. And if your constituency is saying enough is enough, help us, do something about this, turn this off, and they're not answering. I mean, you got to figure it. There's got to be money. And of course, when they turn around and say, oh, it's racist or xenophobic, they're not critically thinking beyond this, that they don't have an answer because they're involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I don't want to bring a black eye to anybody's community. I get that. But the fact is there's our lives that are being disrupted and upheaved because of this. Yeah. And we've got to, and it can be fixed. You mentioned it, and I agree with you 100%. We want to be empathetic. We want to be that beacon of hope, but there's a right way to do it, and it's not usurping the rule of law and putting Americans not first. We need to put America first. Charity starts at home. Take care of your citizens. Take care of your veterans. Take care of your children. Then we can get to back to business of being that compassionate and an empathetic country and that beacon of hope for those that are really being persecuted and tortured.
The last thing for you, speaking of tortured, there are a number, it's a very large number from what I understand, upwards of 300,000 missing children who have come across the border. What's going on here? I would love to get the clarity I think people want on this, because that's a lot of kids. What's going on?
Yeah. It's a horrible thing, because this isn't something new when it comes to accountability and children being exploited and trafficked across the border. You would think at the very least we could get some kind of bipartisan results with this. But what happens is children are being used to bring families across, or to reunite families. So if your kids are here, then if you come across, you can say, my son is already here with a sponsor. So it's kind of it's one of those loopholes that we tried to close under the previous administration. But just so you and the audience know, anytime somebody that is 17 or under or younger, that is not with their parent or legal guardian, they are considered an unaccompanied minor, and they are to be placed and processed within 72 hours with the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is part of Health and Human Services. So they get out of Border Patrol custody within 72 hours, and they're placed in a shelter somewhere around the United States. It is the Office of Refugee Resettlement's job to reunite them with family or a sponsor. And that sometimes, because it's so organized, the sponsor's already waiting for them, and that's where the trafficking concerns come in. And I don't think they do the best job vetting. And then usually within a week or so after the child is with the sponsor or the family, there is a follow-up call to say, how is little Johnny doing? Well, over 320,000 times, according to that DHS Office of Inspector General report, they had no response. So there's 320,000 plus kids that have come in the country illegally, placed with some kind of sponsor that we have no idea where they are or what has happened to them. They could be living their best life. They could be tortured, and they may have been dead. We may be dead. We don't know that. And that's a problem. And that is where the concerns with trafficking go on, because we have seen reports and information out there about the same sponsor for 30 plus people. That is a red flag. I mean, that tells you we should be investigating this. And this is continuing to go on. And it doesn't seem like they pumped the brakes anywhere on this. And again, for the kids, come on, we got to do better than that.
It would seem to me to be very, very, very difficult to do the proper vetting when you have the kinds of mass numbers of people coming across that you do. You don't have a place to put them, and the border remains open. I've got one more for you if you're okay with that.
I'm fine with it.
And that has to do with a large number of Chinese people coming across illegally. China's not a friend of ours. Right. We have a commercial relationship with China. Obviously, we want to keep the peace with China, right. But China is a hostile nation. China is a nation that is communist, and China is committing genocide against Muslim Uyghurs, and China has forced labor. So not a great ally.
Right.
What do you make of the large number, particularly of kind of military-age men coming from China?
Yeah. So again, perspective. I think the number was 450 Chinese nationals entered illegally and were apprehended in 2022. Last year, it exceeded 24,000. And by midway through this year, I think by June, those numbers were over 24,000 again. So roughly 50,000 Chinese nationals have entered the United States illegally in the last 2 years. And like I mentioned with the Haitians, you don't want to broad brush a community or a culture. I wouldn't want to do it here. But as you said, and I agree with you, China is one of our number one geopolitical foes. And while we are infighting here and name calling within our own country, they are capacity building around the world, doing what we used to do. They are gaining footholds, not only in our own farmland, but South America and Mexico. And so these nationals
in
are
Africa
flying,
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. In Africa, they're doing everything that we should be doing. They're flying in directly to Mexico and they're coming in. And here's the point I'll get to the crux of your question. You don't just get to leave China. So they're allowed to leave China and fly to Mexico, and they're coming in illegally. And I have been down there on the border, and I'm going back down there this afternoon, and I've seen, literally pockets of 25, 30 plus Chinese at a time. And they are mainly adult males between the age of 18 and 35. And I've said this before, and it's something I've always heard is men don't leave their families unless they're preparing for war. So there is a concern there that if 50,000 mainly adult aged men come across from one particular country and they're released in the United States, if just one fraction of that is subject to coercion by that communist government to create espionage or cause a problem here in the United States, that is a threat. And that's what really gets to the heart of it is this is a national security issue. Yeah. This is a public safety issue. We've heard the FBI director talk about threats around the world and things happening here. Why are we not addressing this and saying secure this border? Do not just release people in. Send the message clearly that you're not going to be able to come over here this way to protect Americans. Again, if just one small percentage of those people were subject to coercion and espionage against this country, we'd be in trouble.
I had a friend after October 7th in Israel say to me, wow, do you think that could ever happen here? To which I responded, it already has. It happened on 9/11. And this kind of open border and bringing people in and not vetting, it could easily happen here again. And to me, it's not just a matter of if, but a matter of when. Yeah. And it's sad and it's terrifying. And I'm so pissed off at Mayorkas and the Biden-Harris administration for allowing this to happen. Chris Clem, it's great.
Yeah, we just honored the 23rd anniversary. We said we would never forget. Why are we? We cannot forget because we are setting ourselves up for another disaster, and we've got to be smart about not panic, but be vigilant and be prepared. So again, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Chris. Great to see you. He is Chief Clem, we like to call him. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So again, thanks to former Border Patrol Chief Chris Clem for joining us. And again, if you are of the body of people who think that Elon Musk is a loon, I think Elon Musk has done one of the greatest services a person can do. And that doesn't include, mass creating electric vehicles and sending a spaceship to the International Space Station to save a couple of Americans in February, which is coming up. Elon Musk bought Twitter and liberated Twitter because Twitter was shadow banning. Twitter was blocking tweets. Twitter was not the open forum it was billed to be. But now it is. that does come with some things you're going to disagree with, but that is free speech. Censorship is not free speech. It's really under threat, free speech. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to Elon Musk. And I think ultimately that will be part of his legacy, that he saved this platform that allowed people to express themselves in ways that were being banned and, quite frankly, are still being banned on other platforms. You won't see that happen on X unless it's really needs to happen. So be brave and do good. Be brave and speak up. Do good and try to speak up without being part of the fuel on the fire. And we will see you later on this week. We've got a couple of really fascinating guests coming up for you. Thanks for listening.
Over 4 days, we witnessed nearly 600 migrants, adults and children, pass through this hole and onto U.S. soil unchecked. We saw people from India, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. Many of the Chinese migrants who came through will end up asking for political asylum. Did you travel by yourself or with family or friends?
No, just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
The Gap is a global destination, littered with travel documents from around the world. With the help of a translator, we learned a little about the Chinese migrants coming through.
Teaching? You're a teacher?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We also met a banker and small business owners